Hey, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the country. My name is Gregory Skinner, and I'm excited to be back. I guess I'm a regular at this point with the Work Truck Solutions Summit, and super happy to be here. Um, Sorry, I'm getting a little bit of an echo or a delay. But anyways, I'm excited to talk about how to think about the future of commercial vehicles. Um, it's an interesting topic because every single year when I come back and do this, or every 6 months when we come back and do this, things have changed pretty dramatically. Um, from one time to the next time, it seems like the industry has evolved, the technology has evolved, and there's always new things happening. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and the company I work for. The company is Escalent. My job there, I'm VP of Strategic Insights. This is an analytics firm and an advisory firm, and we work with everybody in the commercial vehicle space. This can be OEs, it can be tier one suppliers, it can be users, owner operators, you name it, and we're working with them, which gives us great oversight into what's happening in the industry. More specifically, we're focused on competitive intelligence, vocation-specific trends, sales forecasting. And my job is to put a face to all of those numbers. So that means speaking to fleet managers, speaking to CFOs, speaking to mechanics, owner operators, you name it. And it's about being on the ground and understanding the sorts of challenges and pain points and desires that people in the industry have and want satisfied. This, of course, this includes upfitters also. When we're talking about how to think about the future of commercial vehicles, I think it's pretty clear that anybody who's in this industry knows that whatever we thought about commercial vehicles in the past is about to change dramatically. Um, you know, we're talking about new technologies, new powertrains, new fuels, new legislation and regulations. What we knew that existed even a year ago is gone. It's going to be different going forward and going to continue to evolve and change. So it's essential that we understand what's coming down the pipe. Now, my job is really about, we call it advanced product, which means 3 years from now, 5 years from now, even 7, 10 years from now, sort of understanding that marketplace, that landscape, and helping the companies who we serve navigate their way through it. The thing about this marketplace is that, for a long time, we've had really great predictability, really great, I'd even say stability. Things have been pretty motionless. If we look at the vehicles that are out there, if we look at the technology that's out there, it hasn't evolved particularly quickly. And I mean, that's what's great about it. It means that when it comes to TCO, we can project it accurately. When it comes to parts acquisition or upfit, we know what we're dealing with. The vehicles haven't changed. Powertrains have been relatively, again, stable. Even things like upfit and telematics, telematics with the data and understanding what the vehicles are telling us in service and maintenance, we can predict when things need to be serviced, when things need to be changed. It makes it pretty straightforward for whoever is in the industry. But that's going to change when all of this new product starts to hit the market. It's going to be rampant change, and it's going to happen very quickly. Regardless of what you think about the regulations or the legislation that's out there, particularly in California, which is where I am, California is a leading state. It is an influencing state. For better or for worse, all of the other states are looking at what's happening in California and saying, okay, this is where our goalposts are. These are the things that are going to set precedents for how we internalize and put regulation and legislation back out into the marketplace. The slide says it's because of the sunflowers. The sunflowers really, they're a metaphor for environmentalism, climate consciousness. We're talking climate change, greenhouse gases, carbon offsets, CO2 emissions. Energy dependence is a thing that's on everybody's tip of everybody's tongue. Social conscience. These are all drivers for the things that are happening. And we need to embrace this because it is not going away, and it's not going away anytime soon. In fact, it's only ramping up. So what is it that we see happening in this marketplace? Given all this push for change and evolution, what is it that we see? Well, when we look at the numbers, you can see that from 21 to 30, the adoption of zero emission vehicles starts to escalate. In 2021, we had 0.1% of the total marketplace being zero emission vehicles. 2 years later, so now we're at, so by the way, this is a predictive forecast based on the numbers that we, Escalent, have acquired and have worked out into 2030 based on production volumes, sales, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a pretty accurate forecast. You can see in 2023, we're at 2.5%. Well, given the mandates, we'll be at 18% by 2030. That number is huge, considering that 2 years ago, we were at 0.1%. This doesn't even take into account market momentum, meaning I, business owner one, look at what business owner two is doing, and I see that they've adopted alternative powertrain vehicles, whether it be electric or fuel cell. Therefore, I should consider it also. And so it takes that momentum and it makes the market grow even faster. So we're at 18.7% by 2030. That number might be significantly larger for everything that we know. We also look at the chargers that are in the marketplace. So right now, according to AFDC, the government body, and they're tracking, this is level 2 and DC fast chargers, there are 53,000 chargers out there in the market right now. We're going to need significantly more, of course, but that also is not a small number. So this market is starting to grow, it's starting to gain some traction, and it's only getting bigger. The funny thing is when we look at the word on the street, so I go to these conferences, I go to these expos, symposium, and we look at the chatter. We also look at the chatter that's happening in trade media. And the prediction right now, or the word on the street, is chaos. Everybody's saying, this is so chaotic. We don't know what to do. We don't know what's happening. How is this market possibly going to grow? Because there's 3 key influences that are colliding or in conflict with each other. The first is from the supply side. You see them, or the user side, you see them saying, we've got the trucks. We want the trucks, but there's nowhere to charge these things. So why would we invest in this new technology? We're just going to wait. The second thing is from a technology side. People looking at building out infrastructure or charging networks or fueling networks, they say this tech is changing all the time. When we look at battery longevity, when we look at power outputs, when we look at disposal, the things that we talked about 2 years ago are no longer relevant or applicable. So why would we go and invest hundreds of millions of dollars in building out fueling systems when maybe 2 years from now, all of that's going to have changed also? And then we look at it from the people side. So the companies who need to hire techs or upfit, and they say, well, if those two don't have their game sorted out, then why would we invest in new people? And why would we look for new tooling? Because none of those other pieces is determined. So when you put those 3 things together, it sounds like this market is just going to, I won't say grind to a halt, but nobody's going to make the first move. Nobody's going to be the first mover. What I say is, you know what? Ignore that sort of banter and ignore those sorts of words, because I can tell you that there's a lot of things happening, even if they're not front and center, even if it's not something that you see each and every day. These are the sorts of things that from our end, from our company, that we see to be, or that I see to be, the sort of 4 key things that will entrench themselves in the next 3 to 5 years. And it's interesting because when we hear the different speakers talk, everybody's got their own unique perspective. And again, our point of view is let's look at the market holistically, because of course everybody's has a specific goal. So what do we see happening? The first is that you can anticipate the future to be a mixed fuel world, meaning There are so many vehicle types out there with so many types of solutions for problems that need to be solved. You can't possibly have just one solution. It might be electric. Certainly, it might be electric. It could also be fuel cell. It could be, um, oops, it could be um, uh, CNG. It could be RNG. There is no one solution. And of course, all of this is entirely dependent on the application. So from a user perspective, it is how far is this vehicle running? What is it carrying? What's the weather that it's in? Where are we located? Is it a dense urban environment? Is it over the road? All of these things, of course, dictate which fuel source and which powertrain make the most sense. So for better or for worse, battery electric vehicles are going to come, but they may not be the only thing that we see out there. And we can tell you that they're not going to be the only solution that's in this marketplace. And I can tell you the other interesting thing is that if you go to ACT Expo or if you go to the Work Truck Show, this is probably the first year ever where I've heard speakers say that it's not just about electric, that it is a bunch of different solutions that end users will be able to pick and choose from. What's the second thing that we're going to see happening? Well, you can anticipate significantly more innovation, dare I say even diversity. So this includes, and sorry, with diversity comes, or with innovation comes, this idea of more competition. It's the exact same thing that happened when we broke up the baby bells. As soon as you got rid of one idea, then all of a sudden the market is flooded with a host of different ideas and a host of solutions. And with that comes competition. That's a great thing. Competition means lower prices. It means more variability in options. It means more solutions. And that's what we're going to see. When it comes to options, it's going to be new manufacturers who we've never heard of. It's funny because we're walking around, the ACT show, we're walking around the Work Truck show, and you're going, I've never even heard of this manufacturer before. I've never seen these guys before. Who are they and where did they come from? All of that means new ways of thinking. It means change. And it's almost like a circular equation. When you get change, it drives innovation. When you get innovation, it drives change. The third thing that you're going to see are new business models start to emerge. And new business models mean the end user, the purchaser, of the equipment, the enterprises out there. You no longer can use the same business models that you did in the past. So let's say you have 100 vehicles in your fleet, then all of a sudden you introduce 30 electric vehicles. Well, those things need to be charged. They need to be serviced. They're going to be spewing a lot of data that you can now use to run your fleet more efficiently. It's almost like you run the old part of your fleet one way and the new part of your fleet a different way. And together, that means that maybe we have to rethink how we run our business. This also includes upfit. It also includes service and maintenance, because those things are very different than they have been in the past. Maybe one of the most exciting parts of this is going to be this idea of new talent. So new talent means the people who are servicing these vehicles, the people who are upfitting them, they have to have different set of skills. So the way that you service, let's say, a fuel cell is clearly different than the way you service a diesel. So now we're going to start to see the introduction of a need for electrical engineers, software engineers, young, bright talent who think differently about how to run the business. We know that there's a huge shortage out there when it comes to drivers and when it comes to techs and service technicians. Well, that's going to be backfilled with a new type of person who we never saw in this market before, doing different types of things. The third thing that we're going to see happening is this idea of products and services coming fast and furious. There's definitely a lot of clever thinking and engineering that's out there. And whether or not they're providing interim solutions or whether they're providing long-term solutions, it's all about solving business needs. There's four things that jumped out at me based on these shows. Some of these pictures are mine, some of them have been borrowed. But some great examples of this would be, Altex EPTO that they're using in their green fleet, meaning, and I'm sure everybody out there has heard of it, but if you haven't, you have, let's say, a class 6, 7, 8, you have a bucket truck. It normally runs a diesel. It gets to its location. It sits there. It idles all day. It powers the tools. It powers the bucket. Well, now with this concept of, they're calling it micro hybridization, batteries on board. I have electronic controls to control the truck. I can run my tools and my equipment off my battery. I can shut down that diesel engine because I don't need it running all day. And so now all of a sudden I'm starting to meet my emissions goals and my green goals. It's such a great idea. You kind of wonder, why haven't we done this before? Why haven't we thought about this before? But it's just one solution in this whole basket of solutions that are out there. Another one is Hyundai's Escalent fuel cell Class 8. We know that when it comes to over the road, that electric right now just isn't cutting it. It doesn't have the range. There's payload issues. There's charging and infrastructure issues. Well, fuel cell is one of those two big solutions that are out there that people are saying, hey, there's battery and there's fuel cell electric vehicles, and fuel cell is going to start to stake its place in the marketplace. Well, let's not kid ourselves. This is kind of like a test bed for other classes of vehicles. So once they start to dial in, and I don't just mean Hyundai, I mean anybody who's in that fuel cell, once they start to dial in that technology and understand how it works, what the benefits are, and the sort of everyday operations, all of that thinking and all that technology is going to percolate down or trickle down into smaller classes of vehicle. Now, it might not make sense for, let's say, box trucks in the city, but it might make sense for, let's say, a 26-footer who's hauling, 25,000 pounds from in regional delivery. So we have to start thinking about how these technologies are going to impact what's coming in the future, and why or why not they might be relevant. One of the biggest and most interesting things was, of course, Cummins agnostic 15-liter. We're talking about HVO diesel. We're talking about hydrogen combustion versus hydrogen fuel cell, and we're talking about natural gas. Cummins itself is saying, guess what? We have 3 solutions built into one, and you can pick and choose the one that best solves your needs. It's fascinating. Like, just think about, I haven't even finished the slide, and I'm like, think about how all of the different solutions that are out there are solving the different needs in this marketplace, and they're not all about battery electric. It means that the end user is going to have a wide variety of choice and think about things differently. And then this last one is Exos Hub. So it's a mobile charging solution. Let's say you need to charge up your vehicles in the field. Well, you tow this there. You can charge up to 5 vehicles at 40 kilowatts. Incredible. Keep things running all day. You don't necessarily have to worry about the risk involved in like maintaining your own infrastructure, getting permits, all that sort of stuff. Incredible. Continuing in that same vein, there's this idea of new large-scale enterprise and new large-scale builds that are coming. So at Expo in Anaheim, just a week ago, there was a huge announcement from Greenlane, which we've sort of been talking about for a while, but announced it formally, which is this collaboration between Daimler Trucks, BlackRock Investments, and NextEra Energy. They're saying, hey, guess what? We're going to put in over $500 million into building zero emission and H2 fueling along major corridors. Commercial vehicles are now going to have a solution where they didn't have it before. The fascinating thing here is that we're talking about zero emission, which includes battery and also hydrogen fueling. Now all of a sudden the options open up for companies that they didn't have. And so that means their consideration set of the vehicles and options out there also increase. E-fleets, the top right corner, we see Zeem Solutions, a turnkey fleet as a service option, meaning my guy shows up, he comes to our facility, drops off his car, hops in his truck, continues on, works his day, comes back, hops in his car and goes home In the meantime, we maintain the truck. We build out the infrastructure for charging, we do the service and maintenance, and we partner with you, to make your business more efficient when it comes to charging, uh, even how the driver is driving. We help coach. It's basically entire 100% partnership, collaboration with companies who want to have a green fleet. Well, again, these sorts of options didn't really exist a couple of years ago, but here they are presenting themselves now. You're going to start to hear a lot about fleet as a service, and you're going to start to hear a lot about charging as a service, meaning um, we're going to build out the infrastructure in a depot, whether it be on your site or our site. You come in, you pay us a flat fee, which has been negotiated typically over the next 5 years. You charge up, you're good to go. The fourth thing that we see happening is this idea of uh, PPP, so public-private partnership. And the amount of money here is significant. I have to say, when you look at the names on the screen, these are not small companies. And guess what? They also include the government. So there was someone from the feds on stage last week talking about billions of dollars in investment to get this whole industry up and running and moving into the future. You know, Basically what this is saying is this tide for new technologies and new ways of thinking is not going back. It's not turning anytime soon. So rest assured for everybody listening at this symposium, this means that it's now time to get on board and get involved because people are serious about making this stuff happen. And you know that as soon as you see someone like BlackRock investing, that the business model is let's make money. Like that they're going to make this work one way or another. In fact, any of these companies that are up on this screen, they're serious about being efficient and being effective, not only as a business, but also the return to their investors. So you might be sitting there saying, okay, this is great, sounds great. There's a lot of stuff happening. I get you, Gregory. What does this have to do with me? I might be an upfitter or I might be a dealer. How does all this stuff affect me? Well, when I think to all of the things that I just talked about, the one thing that's probably going to affect you the most is this idea of infrastructure. So there are some words that kept coming up with when we start to talk to people about what's happening, and it's consistent. And the first one is this idea of scalability, meaning I need to make this thing big. I need to make this thing large. Um, this does not do me any justice if it's small. It needs to be something that's paying back on a large scale. The second thing is this idea of repeatability. And predictability. I need people coming in and doing things in a regular or predictable fashion, which probably means fleets. It probably means people who are thinking about how they manage their business effectively. The third thing is future proofing, meaning I might put in equipment today, but it needs to last us 3, 5, 7, 10 years because we don't know what the future is. And then the fourth one is this idea of come to our facilities, do your fueling, do your service maintenance at our facilities. And this is where it becomes interesting for everybody listening, because a big part of this is this idea of partnerships. They're putting in tons of money into infrastructure, but they can't do it themselves. They don't know how to, fix a class 4 vehicle. They don't know how to upfit a vehicle. So they're looking for partners. They're looking for people who understand what the business is, are really good at what they do, and are in it for the long haul. And that's why it's important to you. So what do we see happening from my end when I talk to fleet managers, when I talk to operations? I hear very consistently, um, we're just going to wait to see what Amazon and the Walmarts of the world are doing, and then we're going to jump in. Well, sorry to say, that's not the best strategy. In fact, you're kind of doing yourself a disservice because you simply can't afford to wait. Paul from Zoom was saying, this stuff costs money, and things are changing all the time. You need to start now. You simply can't wait. I can tell you what the Amazons of the world are doing and what the Walmarts of the world are doing. They are testing out every single option, every single technology all the different companies. They're buying up as many trucks as they can. They're trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And then once they figure it out, then that's what they're going to go with. But I think the most important thing is they're not looking at this as one solution. So what I talked about before, they might say, well, fuel cell works in this application for us, electric works in this application, diesel works in this application for us. There is no one solution for them. And that's where you sort of need to emulate that yourself. What's the key takeaway here? It is that, like anything, when we talk about recommendations, it's easier said than done. But rest assured, there's so much investment and there's so much market momentum and market inertia right now that when the market does come to fruition, it's going to move really quickly. So, we have Steve Hansen, Senior Director of Fleet Operations, Engineering, Sustainability for Pepsi, and he says, we don't want to do it all internally. We want to have partners who are capable at what they're doing, working with us, and we're looking for that. We have Christina Nilsson from Volvo Energy saying, public-private partnership is the new leadership. The P in there that is the most important thing is this idea of partnership. It's a very consistent theme. They want people who know what they're doing on their side and on their teams. So for you, I know it's kind of a crazy time right now, and honestly, it's kind of like the Wild West. Everybody's trying to stake their claim. Everybody's trying to sort of be renowned for who they are in the industry and what they're good at. So what is it that you should do? I would say there's probably 4 or 5 key things. The first thing is get involved. Like, you have to take a step. You have to take a step, and it means any step. Sitting there, being complacent, waiting to see where the market is going to end up is almost like saying, I'm just going to wait for technology to slow down. Well, it's not going to slow down. It's only going to get faster. It's only going to change more quickly. You have to jump in at some point and say, okay, where are we in this space? How do we understand, or how do we go about understanding what's important? And then how do we get our own piece of it? How do we stake our own claim? Part of this is going to be educating yourself. So you need to be prepared for the future and up to speed on all of it. And if not all of it, at least some of it. And I think the thing that's going to happen is, as soon as you start to jump in and start to talk to people and start to build relationships with people, then it simply becomes that much easier. But there's a lot of things that are happening, and whether it be reading trade journals, going to conferences, talking to other people in the industry, the more you know, the more you know. And again, like, one of the key things is everybody's looking for people who know. Everybody wants answers. So it's great to establish yourself as experts, subject matter experts, technical experts in this industry. The third thing would be build relationships. I've sort of harped on this a lot throughout this talk, but start reaching out to people, because you want to start to build those partnerships. You want, and it's a two-way street. The more they feed you, the more you feed them, then the stronger the relationship and the more robust the business opportunities. The second and last one is this idea of spending money. And I really hate to say it, because nobody wants to spend money. People want to make money, but nobody wants to spend money. But you have to start spending. And more specifically, it's this idea of building expertise, building recognition, getting your brand familiarity out there so that people know who you are, what you're good at, and why they should be partnering with you. And that's going to take an investment, again, sort of in educating yourself and putting yourself out there. And then this last one is this idea of hiring. So you'll need expertise, and you'll need a lot of expertise. And this includes things like techs, electrical engineers, software people, because as much as we want to believe that it's the guy with the gal with the greasy hands and the wrench in his hand, these fleets of the future, or these commercial vehicles of the future, they might be run by someone at a laptop, at a desk with a mouse. understanding when service maintenance needs to be done, clicking things to change things over the air and on the fly. It means that the workforce of the past is going to start to evolve and change, and there's going to be a new workforce that's relevant and making a difference. So when we think about the future of commercial vehicles, where do we sort of end up? Well, first mover advantage is going to be huge right now because again, it's sort of Wild West. It's just out there. So it's going to take courage, it's going to take commitment, but it's also going to take some investment. So it means spending a little bit of money. The second thing is you'll probably never get another chance like this in the context of your business. You know, this where it is so nascent, it is so new, and everything is wide open that the opportunities here are 1,000-fold. And it's not very often, especially in commercial vehicle, that this happens. So now is the chance to dive in. And then that's sort of the last point. You have to be ready to go because when this market hits, it's going to hit in a big way. So now is the time to get up and running. One more thing to tell you. The only other thing I'd like to add is this idea of fleet foresight. So this is one of the products that Escalent has. It is a sort of quarterly symposium that we run, and it basically lets you know about all the same things that we talked about now, but more specifically how it's applicable to your business, keeping in mind sort of real business needs, real challenges, real opportunities for you, and then how you can leverage this information to make your business better. It's my information. Always happy to talk and always happy to help you be as profitable and as effective as possible.